Hi guys. So this video is going to flesh out a live stream that I did the other day on the nodes of the moon and what happens when the transiting nodes of the moon make a conjunction to a planet or a point that you have in your birth chart. This is a powerful time in your life, even though the actual transit lasts a couple of weeks to a couple of months. It really does usher in fated, destined events in your life. And so I thought that I would take the time to give a more comprehensive overview and talk to you guys about what happens when the North Node or the South Node makes an actual conjunction to any of your natal planets or to one of your angles. And I also want to talk about what happens when you have something called a nodal return or a nodal reversal. Okay, these are a lot of questions that I keep getting from everybody. So I'm going to get into it. I actually spent a lot of time going back to my own life in my own astrology journals to document for you and bring this to life in actual life events that I can share with you in this video. So it's going to be instructional. I am going to use my birth chart and my life experiences up until now as a teaching tool with the astrology. And I'm going to give you a general understanding of how you can apply this to your life. All right. So before I get started, in case you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Maria D. Simone. I am a professional astrologer. You can learn more about me and my work at my website, insightfulastrology.com, where I offer personalized classes and consultations. I've been an astrologer for quite a while now. I think it's about 18 years. It's been a while, and I love what I do. I love helping all of you understand more about your life and your astrology, and to use astrology as a tool for self-understanding, personal growth, and empowerment. And I've been doing a series of videos on the nodes of the moon. I will link them in the description box below, so you can watch them if you haven't already. And the nodes of the moon are an extremely karmic component in your horoscope. Very briefly, the North Node of the moon talks about your life direction, where you are supposed to be growing towards in this lifetime, while the South Node represents your past life accumulation of talents and also baggage, things that you are supposed to be releasing and qualities that might be draining you or preventing you from moving forward. The goal with your natal nodes is to balance them and to use your past South Node talents and abilities to help you actualize your North Node destiny, okay? But as time goes on, the nodes of the moon travel around in a cycle where about every 18 and a half years or so, they will start all over again and repeat. So if you were born with the nodes in a specific sign and degree at about the age of 18 and a half, you will have the first of what is called a nodal return, where the nodes of your moon align exactly as they were in your birth chart. And when this happens, every 18 and a half years, and I have my notes here, so age of 37 would be another nodal return, age 56, 74 and a half or so, okay? So this gives you an idea of your nodal return ages. When this happens, it is a time that you should feel very confident about embracing your destiny, about embracing what it is that you are meant to be moving towards in this lifetime based on your particular node placement, the sign placement, and the house placement, okay? So it may seem during this time in your life like things are just falling into place, like you are just vibrating and completely aligned to where you're supposed to be. You are pulled into your destiny. And you feel good about this when you're having the nodal return. And if you feel like you need some help in actualizing in that North Node placement during this time, it's really easy for you to get that help. The right teachers, mentors, people, whoever it is, fall into your life at this time during your nodal return. So that is what tends to happen when the nodes line up exactly as they were in your birth chart. North node with the north node, south node with the south node. It's a time when you're going to get clarity. You're going to know about yourself and how you want to use your time and your energy in this lifetime. And you'll be really clear. It's this stepping stone. It's a time of personal growth. And, I remember when I was 37 years old and I had my nodal return, that was a year when my business as an astrologer really started to take off. And I received a very high profile job as an astrologer and astrology writer at that time. So much happened for me on the internet. It just helped it make my business explode. And my north node is in my 8th house in Sagittarius. So for me, it really did help me align to expressing my truth and being paid for that in the world of publishing, broadcasting my message about occult, paranormal matter, which is part of 8th house, to help people heal, That is part of my life destiny. So the nodal return time is a reward cycle. What happens though when you've got the reverse happening? It's called a reverse nodal return. And this happens at about the age of 28. It happens around 46 and a half. It happens again 65, 83 and a half. Okay, this is when the transiting south node of the moon is conjunct your natal north node, and the transiting north node of the moon is conjunct your natal south node. So it's a backwards scenario here. And it symbolizes a time of readjustment in a significant way. You may feel like things are blocked for you, that there's not really a place in your current life story for old patterns, old beliefs, old ways of doing things, okay? And you are probably going to face some type of disappointment during this reverse nodal return so that you can get back on track, to get you back on a course correction if you have veered off from following your true north. That is the point of the reverse nodal return. It's to get you back on track. And very often you might not even realize that you've gotten off track a little bit. You just get into habits in life. And so it can be a difficult time, but again, think of that reverse nodal return as a realignment and a course correction. I love using the term course correction with certain cycles, especially with retrograde planets. But the nodal return, the reverse nodal return, definite realignment and course correction for you. Okay, so you're going to be leaving behind what you might be good at, but what doesn't really work for you anymore. You're just going to recognize that you're off course in some way in your life. I just had my reverse nodal return last year, so it's kind of fresh in my head, my experience, but I will get to that when I show you some chart examples. I wanted to talk about the nodal return and the reverse nodal return first, because we're talking about the nodes of the moon here. So before we get to the actual planetary conjunctions, I wanted to make sure that I covered that in this video. And remember, guys, that the north node conjunctions are typically going to have a different energy than the south node conjunctions, but I don't want you to think of it in terms of good versus bad, positive versus negative. Yes, while it is true that the north node is the more fortunate energy overall, because it ushers you into your destiny and where you're supposed to be growing, whereas the south node is more of a draining influence, and it can talk about situations, people, habit patterns that you have to release, let go of. That doesn't mean bad. It doesn't mean bad. And as you'll see, I have some pretty positive examples of a couple of things that have happened in my life during south node conjunctions, even if they were difficult. It ended up being a positive pivot in my life, in my life story. And that's what you're going to experience in your world. Now, as an astrologer or an astrology student, you can actually use the nodes of the moon, transiting nodes of the moon, in predictive work. And it is really, really interesting to do that, because remember, these conjunctions, they're not happening all the time in your chart. It's going to take another 18 and a half years before the north node or the south node makes a conjunction to your planet, to that planet. Okay, so it's every, let's say we're talking about Venus. The north node will make the conjunction to Venus. And then 9 years later, the south node, about 9 years later, the south node is going to make the conjunction. And then it's going to be at the 18 and a half year point that the north node makes the conjunction again to Venus. So these are big deal cycles to track. And you will, in your astrology journals, as you document these cycles in your own life, you're going to be able to look back and see the patterns for yourself come to life. It's beautiful. It's truly beautiful. So let's talk about the angles in a chart first. The ascendant descendant axis in your chart, it is the point of self and the point of other, partnership, marriage, other. And so when the nodes are transiting over angles, whether it's the 1st and the 7th house or the 4th and the 10th house, major life changes will happen. They coincide always with significant changes in your life direction, in your life story. Why? Because the angles of a horoscope, folks, are the points of energy manifestation in any birth chart. This is where all of that cosmic DNA that you have when you're looking at your birth chart meets the physical world. And that is how events are created. And that is why the 1st house is yourself, and the 7th house is your relationships, and the 4th house is your home and family, and the 10th house is your career and your place in the world. Okay, these are big areas of life. And so when the nodes of the moon, the north node of destiny, the south node of past and what you have to let go of and release, and these are connected to your ascendant descendant axis, absolutely major relationship changes can happen, but also major changes connected to your identity, your physicality, your physical self, how you look and feel. It is absolutely, the north node to the ascendant is this feeling of, here I am, world. Okay, you are very aligned to expressing yourself in a way that fits with where you're supposed to be headed. It's all connected at this time for you, and everything seems to click. It's an independent type of an energy. It is an energy where you're focused on your self-development and self-growth, the north node to the ascendant. And by contrast, that means the south node will be on your partnership sector. So that could be a time when you're not really as focused on the other person, a relationship. However, that can still stimulate changes in a relationship, even a fated meeting of a partner or an engagement or a marriage, even though the south node is there on the partnership sector, because it's being stimulated. The whole axis is being stimulated. If you do meet somebody when the south node is on your descendant, it is obviously somebody from a past life, somebody that you have something extremely karmic to work through together, to release together in some way. So that's pretty weighty. You're going to feel like there's this faded connection to that person, and you're going to feel the weight of that relationship. Even if it's a positive relationship, you're going to feel the weight of it. So when it's opposite and the north node is on the 7th house cusp and the south node is on the ascendant, you're not thinking about yourself as much. You're letting go of self-directed, self-motivated energies for a time period, and you're focusing more on the relationship, on the other person. And I remember looking through my life files. Sure enough, I became engaged to my ex-husband when the north node of the moon was on my 7th house cusp. And I have the planet Uranus there. So for me, it would have also been conjunct Uranus. And I did become engaged during that time. I know a lot of clients who got married during that time when the North Node was conjunct their 7th house cusp, okay, or the ruler of their 7th house cusp. That's another active situation. You want to consider chart rulerships always, always when you are looking at things through this predictive lens in astrology. It adds so much more information for you. So that's the ascendant descendant axis, life-changing time. Same thing when it's the 4th house, the 10th house, the midheaven and the nadir. So what happens when you have the North Node conjunct your midheaven? You're going to automatically have the South Node conjunct the 4th house cusp. So remember, the North Node is just this energetic point of, okay, it's a yes. It's a clear path to yes when you're talking about North Node conjunctions. And so that means it is very often a time of professional success, professional opportunity, major turning points in one's career path that benefit you. Now, you may not be as focused on family dynamics during that time in your life because the South Node would be at your 4th house cusp. So you may feel that family is draining you a little bit more, that you're just not focusing there. You don't want to. It's not fulfilling you as much to be focusing on family matters when the South Node is at your 4th house cusp. Now, the opposite, when the South Node is at the top of your chart and the North Node is on your 4th house cusp, it's the opposite dynamic. So now when the North Node is at the bottom of your chart, you are feeling really focused on family, and there are rewards, there are opportunities connected to family. One year when the North Node was conjunct my 4th house cusp, that's when I conceived my daughter. Another year, very recently, when the North Node was conjunct my 4th house cusp, I moved into a home of my own. Major home and family and real estate developments happen when the North Node is conjunct your 4th house cusp. Life-changing, always life-changing. Remember, this doesn't happen often, guys. So it's gonna rock your world a little bit. Now, while the North Node of the moon was at my 4th house cusp in both of those examples, I wasn't paying attention to career. I was, the first time around, I was already a stay-at-home mom with 1 child, and I was focused totally on home, family, nesting, didn't even have a career the first time. That was in the year 2000. The second time around, when I moved into my home, I did very much have a career as an astrologer. That was 2019. But that whole year actually was all about home and family matters. And I had zero ambition professionally. I was not interested in doing anything new professionally as an astrologer. I just let my career float. And I put it on autopilot because my energy wanted to be at home. I wanted to nest. I didn't want to leave my house. I was so happy that I owned my own home and I moved into this beautiful home after 22 years of living in my ex-husband's home. So this was focused on home, family, nesting, not career. Doesn't mean my career went to shit. So this is important for you guys. Remember, the South Node conjunctions don't mean failure. Don't assume that. Big mistake to make. My career was already established enough. I put it on autopilot. That's all. That's all that happens. Okay. And then, life goes on. Now, in 2010, when I had the North Node conjunct my midheaven, I had a huge career success cycle, 2010 into 2011. But my South Node created some family stress. South Node transiting on my 4th house cusp, there was a lot of family stress that year. Okay, so you have to really consider that. The problem with the nodes of the moon on an angle in your chart, on any of the angles, is that one area is going to get really heavily weighted with yes, yes, yes. And the other area is going to be heavily weighted with, ugh, I don't want to deal with it, or I'm going to lose something, or something's draining. So that is going to happen, but you can balance this out. All right. So now let's talk about the planets. And I'm going to start with the outer planets and then work to the personal planets, okay? And when it comes to the nodes of the moon, every planet in your chart matters. The conjunction to every single planet will bring a fated life event your way. So you do want to pay attention to this. So starting with Pluto. Pluto is the planet of death, rebirth, transformation, right? It's very ominous. Pluto is also connected to overcoming our limitations and transforming and creating something new out of ashes, really, okay? So Pluto is a very powerful part of our horoscope. So when the nodes of the moon, the north node or the south node, is conjunct Pluto, you are going to have a time period of tapping into your power to either face an adversity, if it's the south node, or to go after a major win in your life with everything that you've got. And it's an empowering healing when it is the north node Pluto conjunction. And when it is the south node Pluto conjunction, it can also be a healing, but the healing comes from letting go of something, releasing something. And remember that the nodes of the moon are connected to the moon. So it's kind of like having an honorary moon Pluto energy at this temporary time in your life. And that means that family dynamics are very likely to be intensified for you when the north node or the south node is conjunct your natal Pluto placement. And so there can be an actual transformation in your family life, family unit. Sometimes there's a death, sometimes there's a rebirth of a relationship or the loss of a relationship or the letting go of a toxic relationship connected to the home. There's endings, there's closure when the south node especially is conjunct Pluto. And the closure could be healing, okay? It doesn't have to be bad. It doesn't have to be bad at all. So I'm going to share my screen now. And I'm going to show you a personal example of what happened when both my north node and my south node was conjunct Pluto in different times of my life, okay? So right here, I'm using my highlighter to circle my natal Pluto placement. I've got Pluto in Libra in the 6th house. 6th house is work, health, service. Pluto in my chart might be in the 6th house, but it is the ruler of my 8th house of trauma, other people's money, surgery, healing, okay, death, and rebirth. Okay, remember that. You want to tie in the rulerships when you're doing your individual forecasting. So Pluto, when I had my north node of the moon by transit conjunct my natal Pluto in the 6th house, something wonderful happened that created a beautiful healing for my family life. 6th house, what does it rule besides health and work? It is small pets, okay? And as those of you may know, if you follow my channel, my dog Maple, my little Maple, who's in these videos every now and then, she actually, when transiting north node was conjunct my natal Pluto, this is when I brought Maple home. This is a huge thing for me because up until that point, I did not consider myself an animal person at all. As a matter of fact, my kids would beg me for a dog for years and years, and I flat out refused, didn't want to deal with it. But something changed at that time. And what changed was I knew that for my family and my children in that moment, in order to heal the family and help the family, this dog, this pet, was going to be instrumental, and she sure was. So the north node by transit conjunct Pluto was very healing, very empowering, created a powerful bond. Now, in my chart, this is not in everybody else's chart, this is just my chart, we have to do this individually. I have a Venus-Pluto opposition. So what does that mean? Well, that means when the north node was conjunct Pluto, automatically the south node was conjunct Venus. So with the South Node conjunct Venus, when I brought Maple home, that symbolized that I clearly have this past life love connection with Maple. She definitely was in my life in past in some way, in some capacity. So I thought that was interesting because for me, the nodes of the moon, whenever they're straddling my Venus-Pluto opposition, it's going to hit both planets. And so when you, same thing for you guys, if you have oppositions in your chart by exact degree like this, especially, see, this is almost an exact opposition. So it's going to happen at the exact time. Now, contrast, let's reverse this. The North Node of the moon, what happens when the North Node of the moon was conjunct my Venus, and then the South Node of the moon would have been conjunct my Pluto? So since we're talking about Pluto, let's finish Pluto first. Well, the South Node of the moon was conjunct my Pluto in 1996 when I quit graduate school and I got a full-time job teaching autistic children and adults in a home, in an adult facility. Actually, this was the teaching adults. 1995 it was children, and then 96 is when I transitioned between children to adults. So it was an adult day care facility where I was the head teacher of in a group home. It was in a group home in Brooklyn. So even though this was a South Node conjunction, I got a job, 6th house, has work, okay? And it was a very, it was a very, there was something dark about this job. The darkness of the job was that I was teaching a population that could not communicate. They were nonverbal. And so I had to rely on a lot of different energies to communicate with the autistic population back then. Now, these were adults. Back then in 1996, the adult autistic population did not receive the treatments that are available today in school and education. So unfortunately, I had a class dynamic where most of the adults were nonverbal and they were violent and they were angry and they couldn't communicate. And it was a difficult, dark situation. And yet the South Node was conjunct Pluto, but this was a good thing for me. Why? Because it reacquainted me with my power as a healer, but it put me in a dark position to do that. I was afraid at first. It put me in a scary position to do that. And the North Node of the moon would have been conjunct my Venus. North Node of the moon conjunct Venus. Venus rules my 2nd house of earned income. This job was the first job that I got that paid me well for my degree and gave me insurance benefits, health insurance benefits, 8th house, Pluto, okay, from the job. So this was good. And again, 12th house Venus, this was a facility, and the 12th house rules all hospitalizations, rehab centers, prisons, facilities, all of that. And that was clearly what happened with that nodal situation, with the South Node conjunct Pluto. Now, there's one more example that I have to give you with Pluto. And I'm kind of covering Venus and Pluto together because of my opposition. But I will go back and cover Venus separately. Okay, so another situation that happened for me was in 2006-ish. That's when the South Node was conjunct Pluto again, okay? And at this time in my life, I had 2 children. So I had 2 children. Now my first child was born via emergency C-section. So I was trying to have an all-natural childbirth, and to make a long story short, he stopped breathing while I was pushing him out. I had to push him back in. It was fun. And because I didn't have any drugs, I wanted an all-natural childbirth, and I was already in active labor. They had to knock me out, and the surgeon had seconds to save my son's life. So this was an emergency situation. Saved my son's life in 1997, but mutilated me in order to do that. I was gutted. And this is what happens when you have an emergency C-section. So I developed some serious, self-worth issues around my stomach and all of that over the years after that. And I wanted to get it fixed. I really did. It was something that bothered me for years. And after I had my second child and I knew I wasn't going to have any more children, I used to beg my husband for the, it was abdominoplasty surgery that would fix the scarring and remove all the damage and basically make my stomach look like a stomach again because it was deformed. So fast forward to, this was actually late 2005, early 2006, South Node of the Moon was conjunct my Pluto. He finally agreed to the surgery. And I had this surgery, 6th house health, Pluto rules my 8th house surgery. And the South Node was conjunct Pluto. So I let go of that deformity and the trauma and all of my stuff attached to it. And the North Node was conjunct Venus. And this was a cosmetic surgery. And there it was in the 12th house. North Node conjunct Venus made me feel beautiful again. Okay, literally with the North Node conjunct Venus. So these are some examples of how Pluto, by conjunction, North Node or South Node, can play out. You're getting the idea, I hope, that it's not so much about always positive event or always negative event. It's about the planetary power and your life destiny and the fated energies that happen that change the course of your life. Okay, really change the course of your life. So now let's talk about Neptune. Neptune can be tricky. Neptune, when it is conjunct the South Node, tends to be a little trickier because this is when we are confronted with where we've been fooling ourselves all along, and now it's coming to us in our reality, in events and through other people. And there can be deception when the South Node by transit is conjunct your natal Neptune. And so I actually just had that in 2021. See, my natal Neptune here is in the 8th house. And that's, again, a bit of a dark place for Neptune. There's a lot of issues in our 8th house, right? Well, in 2021, I had the South Node conjunct the Moon and then Neptune, but let's focus on Neptune. And I was made very aware of extremely deceptive practices of somebody that I had fallen in love with. And it led to a complete heartbreak situation. And then it led to a health crisis because Neptune rules our immune system. And I had some autoimmune issues and I became very sick with the South Node conjunct my natal Neptune. And then what triggered it even more is, remember, the nodes of the moon are connected to the eclipses, right? That's the transiting nodes of the moon, whatever signs they're in, the eclipses are going to be in those signs. So I had an eclipse on my Neptune at the same time. Boom. It was a very, very difficult health situation for a few months that I had to get through. And a mystery illness that I didn't even know I had came out. And this is South Node to Neptune. Okay. So that did happen. Now, when the North Node is conjunct Neptune, different energy. It does tend to be this whole dreamy, beneficial thing that can happen. And yes, you do have some confusion sometimes because you're uncertain. You don't trust your own judgment. Sometimes you're uncertain about, should I go down this path? Usually you should because it's the North Node. Okay. And it is a time when a dream can come true. And I actually, when the North Node was conjunct my Neptune in 2012, that North Node conjunction was very beneficial because I got a dream job as an astrologer. A job was created for me that gave me health benefits at the time. It was just too good to be true. This dream, this dream job. They actually created it for me at tarot.com. This was in 2012. And I was at this amazing career height doing spiritual work that I loved and being recognized for it. Okay, so it was a really happy energy for me at that time. But remember, South Node to Neptune can be a little bit more draining than the North Node. That is one that I have had experience with where it gets difficult. Now, Uranus, the nodes to the planet Uranus. This gets so interesting. We're going to have that this year collectively when the North Node in Taurus is conjunct transiting Uranus on July 31st. That'll be a separate video, separate talk. Right now, I want to stick to what happens when the transiting nodes are conjuncting your natal Uranus placement. So you have to expect the unexpected, but it can be extraordinary. It can be this amazing sudden shift in your life that takes you to this whole new level in life that makes you go, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Or it could be this sudden reversal, okay? This can actually bring sudden popularity and fame for some people. Chance encounters are going to happen. You're going to meet people who are unusual when it's the North Node, and they're going to, take you to your next level in your life development in a very progressive way. So if it's the North Node, for me, when the North Node was conjunct my natal Uranus in 1995, I got engaged. Remember when I was talking about the North Node conjunct my 7th house cusp of marriage in 1995? Well, I have the planet Uranus right there on the marriage sector. So for me, that was extremely beneficial. I became engaged to somebody who would have changed my entire life. Now, in 2005, I had the South Node conjunct Uranus. That was also really positive for me. That was not negative. That was very positive. Why? Because Uranus rules astrology. Uranus rules the internet and technology. And South Node brings things from the past. It is a release. It is a letting go, but it doesn't have to be completely negative. I had a mixed situation in 2005, and I'll explain. The good thing is that in 2005, I became certified as an astrologer. And my astrology website was launched when the South Node was conjunct Uranus, and when Uranus rules technology, Uranus rules my 11th house of groups and technology, and Uranus rules astrology. And I started to see clients. That's your 7th house. Okay, that happened when the South Node was conjunct my natal Uranus. What was also happening that I didn't realize at the time is that would be the beginning of the end of my marriage. Okay, so that took a little time to develop, but that did begin at that time, I would say. Now, in 2014, I had the North Node conjunct Uranus again. It had nothing to do with marriage, had nothing to do with a love life stuff, but everything to do with clients and business. And it was really positive for my business. So for you guys, when the North Node is conjunct your Uranus, really go with whatever seems off the beaten path, whatever opportunity is coming your way that's off the beaten path at this time. You want to go for it because it's going to help you. It's really going to change your life in a positive way. And the South Node does not have to be difficult, because it could absolutely, if it is connected to something ruled by Uranus especially, it can bring benefits that are connected to past energies. So don't take an unwise risk when the South Node is conjunct Uranus. You just want to be careful with that, because you don't want your reputation to be attacked in a negative way. All right, but that's Uranus and the nodes. Now Saturn and the nodes. This is like double karma when this happens. Okay, and again, doesn't have to be bad, but it doesn't have to be super dreamy either. When the North Node is conjunct your natal Saturn, you're getting what you deserve. When the South Node is conjunct your natal Saturn, you're getting what you deserve. Period. End of story. Okay. Now, the North Node is going to bring you rewards for your past efforts. The South Node is going to make you pay for your past mistakes when the South Node is conjunct Saturn. Okay. If you have any karmic comeuppance that needs to happen. And so when I had Saturn conjunct the North Node in 2020, it was very positive energy. I moved to a new neighborhood, third house. I was really having a lot of fun. It was also fantastic for my career, because even though my career was on autopilot in 2019, see, Saturn rules my career sector there. Capricorn's at the midheavens, so Saturn rules it. This was very positive for me. I had a successful podcast, communications. I had a lot going on. It was all good. I was doing my YouTube channel was starting to really gain traction at that time. Really positive energy. Now let's talk about Jupiter. Let's talk about Jupiter. Jupiter nodal contacts are going to be so interesting because a Jupiter North Node conjunction can absolutely bring amazing benefits and protection. And it can be financial. It could be of a Jupiter nature, where it has to do with something Jupiter ruled, publishing, the legal world, academic opportunity, just, traveling, anything that is connected to Jupiter, North Node, that will help you grow. Very often I tell my clients when I see the North Node conjunct Jupiter in their chart that a mentor, a teacher is coming into their life, a guide in some way is coming into their life. So pay attention and see if that happens for you. So when the North Node was conjunct my natal Jupiter here in the 12th house in 2007, that is when my ex-husband left and I had to hire a lawyer. My divorce began, even though I didn't want it to. And you know what? With Jupiter, North Node conjunct my Jupiter, and Jupiter ruled my 9th house of legal matters, and Jupiter rules legal matters. I actually got a lawyer that saved my ass. He really was amazing. I ended up having a 4-year legal battle ahead of me. That doesn't sound all wonderful, right? When you're having the North Node conjunct Jupiter, you would expect it to be raining millions on somebody. No, that didn't happen, but I was protected the way that I needed to be in the legal realm, which was a big part of my life at that point. Okay, so South Node Jupiter connections can be the same thing, but there could be some financial risks with money. You may overdo it, and it can be a draining thing where, if you've promised more than you could deliver in the past, or you made a promise that you can't keep, you're kind of going to be caught with your pants down when the transiting South Node is conjunct your natal Jupiter. So be aware of that. Now let's talk about Mars. So when Mars is a very dynamic planet. Mars is your assertive drive, action, and energy. And when Mars gets a conjunction from the North or the South Node, it often is another pivotal turning point in your life. And so this can be when you have to fight for something, or when you have to let go of a fight. South Node, maybe letting go of a fight, or maybe letting go of a certain way of how you have approached a fight. Okay, North Node, maybe there's something new that you're fighting for, a new ambition, a new goal that comes into your life, a new venture, and it's usually very positive. When my Mars is here in Cancer, very close to my 4th house cusp. And in 2019, when the North Node was conjunct my 4th house, it then moved to make a conjunction to my Mars. So again, this was home empowerment and really loving being in my neighborhood. That's something else to remember, guys. The nodes of the moon move backwards in the zodiac. So they start at the 29th degree, and then they're going to go backwards to the 0 degrees of a sign. And that's why I got the North Node conjunct the 4th house cusp first, and then Mars after that. And then it would have been conjunct Saturn. So when the South Node was conjunct my natal Mars in 2010, Mars rules, action, energy, bodybuilding, really physical energy. Mars is my chart ruler. I have Aries rising. So this is a physical planet for me, especially. It's going to affect my physical appearance. When the south node of the moon was conjunct Mars in 2010, I was in the best shape of my life. I was working out with a personal trainer 3-4 times a week. I had muscles in places that I never knew I could have muscles. I was like 104 pounds at that time of pure muscle. It was insane. It was crazy. And I did that as an outlet because I was also embroiled in a very, very difficult divorce battle that began in 2007. I was still in it in 2010. And the fighting spirit that I had, I was drawing it from some kind of past reserves. I don't know how else to explain it. My home situation, South Node conjunct Mars, South Node conjunct fourth house cusp, home situation was as shitty as it could be at that time. But I didn't give up. I refused to give up. I kept fighting. I kept fighting for my children. I kept fighting for my home, my rights with my home, all of that. So when the South Node is conjunct your Mars, you're not going to give up your fight. You're going to fight in a different way. You're going to let go of, if one way of fighting is not working, a new way has to take over. That's how I see that. You're going to have the courage that you need no matter what, when Mars is on either the South Node or the North Node is transiting your natal Mars. And you'll take risks. You will take risks. Sometimes when the South Node is conjunct Mars, you can take too many risks and you want to be careful. You know, you don't want to go too fast or be reckless. So be careful about that. Now, Venus, we talked about Venus already, but Venus is love. Venus is money. Venus is your aesthetic, social harmony, your self-worth. So a lot can happen when Venus touches the North Node or the South Node by transit. So in 2006, I already told you, that's when I got cosmetic surgery that made me feel a renewed sense of self-worth, self-esteem. And that was Venus. That was Venus ruled. In 2015, I got Maple when my South Node, the transiting South Node was conjunct Venus. And in 1996, North Node was conjunct Venus. And I got a job that paid me, at that time, paid me the best that I'd ever been paid. And I had health benefits and all of that. Yes, when Venus is conjunct your North Node or your South Node, you can get married. You can meet a marriage partner. You, with the North Node or the South Node, you can give birth, have a baby, okay? Even when there is an exact square. Now, I'm not covering squares to the transiting nodes, squaring planets, because I think the conjunctions are much more dominating and much more significant. But I will say that I have seen in multiple instances the nodes squaring Venus, connecting to the birth of a child or some kind of positive event, a big social event, a wedding, for example, okay? But you can, if it's the South Node conjunct Venus and you're meeting somebody, obviously you're going to feel like this is a past life lover, and it very well could be. And if it's the North Node transiting against your Venus, you just are going to feel like this person is aligned perfectly to your life path, your future life path. Now, when the nodes go over your Mercury placement, I talked about this in my other live stream, Mercury and the Sun, so I saved them for last here. So Mercury is communication, it is movement, it is your mental, how you think, how you plan, how you learn, how you communicate your thoughts out into the world. And it is also movements. It also rules young people. So when the North Node is conjunct Mercury, very often there's going to be a shift in learning or in travel or with a young child in your life that is positive. And when the South Node is conjunct Mercury, there may be some issues with a child or a child's learning, or you may have to let go of something Mercury related, like a long-standing contract that you don't want to renew or that won't get renewed, that you want to be renewed. Maybe that happens sometimes with the South Node conjunct Mercury. It could be you letting go of an old mental pattern or an old decision that you know is just not serving you anymore. Okay, that can happen with Mercury conjunct transiting South Node. And but overall, this can be, you're moving, you're busy when the North Node is conjunct your Mercury, and when the South Node is conjunct your Mercury, you're busy in your head, letting go of a lot of things, a lot of the overthinking, and a lot of whatever is a mess. Whatever mess is in your head that has to be cleaned up tends to get cleaned up when the South Node of the Moon is conjunct Mercury. Now the Sun, and then the Moon. Okay, so the Sun is your life force. It's vitality. It talks about what you're learning to become in this lifetime. And when the North Node is conjunct your Sun, oh boy, does your life change. You are propelled into your destiny like nothing else. And this often coincides with a pivotal turning point in your life direction that is as powerful as when the nodes cross any of the angles, because the Sun is the vitality in your life force. And so you're going to meet new people. You're going to have significant experiences that make you feel alive, that make you feel aligned to who you really authentically are again, which is beautiful. It's a beautiful time. So I mentioned in my other video in 2003 into 2004, when the North Node was conjunct my Sun, Mercury, this is when I started studying astrology for the first time. I met a lot of people who changed my life destiny, and these people connected to my career path and supported my learning. And they've actually changed the course of my life. This was another South Node to the Moon. So the Sun, South Node to the Sun can be a little bit draining, where you may lose a man in your life in some way. The Sun rules men. Just like sometimes when the South Node is conjunct Venus or the Moon, you may lose a woman. It doesn't have to be through death. It could be through a breakup, a falling out with the person. So South Node to the Sun can be you resolving some daddy issues, dealing with that. North Node to the Sun could be something positive with father and your relationship with father. And the South Node to the Sun is, it might feel like you don't have as much opportunity to shine your light and to do whatever you want to do, because something is draining your life force at that time, possibly. So as an example, when the South Node was conjunct my Sun in 2013, the Sun rules my 5th house of children, I was feeling a bit drained at that time period, because my kids were going through a very hard time for different reasons, and that put a big drain on me. So always look at what house the Sun rules in your chart when you're looking at the nodal connections to the Sun to see. Now, this year, I'm going to have the North Node conjunct my Sun again. North Node, Sun, and Mercury. So I know good stuff is happening. The Moon. Let's talk about the Moon. When the nodes of the Moon are conjunct your Moon, this is huge. Very personal in nature, very emotional. It's similar to the Ascendant in that it's typically a time of popularity, because the Moon rules the public and the Ascendant is your own identity, but the Moon rules the public. And so when the North Node of the Moon is conjunct the natal Moon, that is very often a time of huge popularity, huge growth in the public eye, great public appeal. The South Node of the Moon can be sympathy from the public, actually, can be a little bit of a sadness. It doesn't have to be that you lose public appeal necessarily, but it can be, it can be a difficult time in a relationship between you and a woman in your life sometimes. And this also coincides with the birth of children very often, because the Moon is connected to fertility. And the South Node to the Moon by transit can be an emotionally difficult time sometimes, because an emotional connection might be lost. And there may be grief attached to it if it's a family connection, but it doesn't have to be a family connection. It could be any connection. So there may be some grief attached to it, because this person was a habit in your life. This person, you had a pattern of emotionally relating to this person, and now this person no longer is in your life, either by death or by just leaving your life for some reason. And so in 2012, when the north node of the moon was conjunct my natal moon. I was extremely popular at work, and I got that great dream job that I told you about that put me out into the public in a very big way. My horoscopes, the video horoscopes were doing well. My horoscope columns were all out there. It was a beautiful time when the north node was conjunct my moon. Last year, when the south node was conjunct my moon and then my Neptune, it was not so good. It was a health crisis, and the moon and Neptune are both planets that when the south node is conjunct, and also sometimes when the south node is conjunct the ascendant or the sun, can be health issues. But the moon, you know, it does connect to health issues, as south node especially. So it can be draining. And for me, this was an emotionally traumatic re-stimulation, actually, that I had to deal with from my past through a present person. So it was like I was re-stimulated, and the pain that somebody had caused me 20-something years ago happened all over again. South node conjunct the moon. And I had to deal with it as if for the first time. I had to deal with it. I had to really, really dig in and deal with it. So it can be a little difficult. Now, one little advanced thing that I'll mention, and then I want to do something fun. If you want to hang around and keep watching this video, I know it's probably a long video, but there's something called the sun-moon midpoint in astrology. This is a bit advanced, and it is the exact mathematic middle point of your sun sign and your moon sign, and it's a sensitive point in astrology. And I have found that the transiting nodes, south node, north node, when it contacts the sun-moon midpoint, it can be significant. So if you are advanced in your astrological studies, you may want to look into this. That sun-moon midpoint is sensitive when it's triggered by transits or progressions, and certainly the transiting nodes. And I do remember that in November 1998, when my sun-moon midpoint was activated, that's when I conceived my son, Vincent. So and it was transiting through my 5th house of children at that time. So that was pretty interesting. I wanted to mention that. And now I want to talk more about forecasting. So this video now is going to get a little more nuanced for those of you who are advanced astrologers, astrology students, and are really into prediction. The solar return chart is a 1-year theme chart that happens the day of your birthday, the day before, or the day after your birthday every year. And that is when the sun in the sky comes to an exact conjunction with your natal birth sun. And whatever the planets are doing in the sky at that moment, that creates a temporary theme chart, a 1-year birthday chart for you that you can use in your life to forecast events, and you can see major themes. And solar return charts are really useful tools in predictive astrology. Not every year is going to be super dynamic in a solar return chart, but I call a solar return chart the cherry on top of your predictive ice cream sundae. I always look at the solar return chart at the end after I've assessed transits, progressions, and solar arcs, and looked at the eclipses, because it corroborates the big themes. Why am I bringing up solar return charts in this video? Well, if you're going to start tracking the conjunctions of the south node or the north node to planets or angles in your birth chart, pay attention to those years when the north node or the south node is making an exact conjunction in the solar return chart, because it tends to be a predictive tool. I'm going to show that to you right now with 3 examples of a solar return chart for me. So this solar return chart was for May of 2011. My divorce was finalized in March of 2011. So as you can see, it became a very personal year for me, all about me year. And all I'm going to have you look at is the north node. That's all I'm focusing on right now, because we're talking about the nodes. So the north node of the moon, the year that I got divorced, my solar return chart that year, the north node was conjunct my midheaven, which means the south node was conjunct my 4th house cusp. I literally lost my family unit, got divorced, okay? Literally But that same year, that same solar return year, from May of 2011 until May of 2012, right in between there, I got that dream job that I told you about with tarot.com, where they created this job that just offered me so many benefits. And it was actually a full-time position for several years. Now I freelance for them, but I've had a long-standing working relationship with them even before 2011. But that solar return year was like the big opportunity career-wise for me. So in a year when the north or the south node is across an angle in your chart or is conjunct a planet, it's going to be a life-changing year. And that certainly was a life-changing year. After a 4-year divorce battle, my divorce was finalized. South node against the 4th house cusp, family draining, goodbye, something changed. North node, 10th house, what a career kaboom year that was for me. Same thing is happening this year for me. Okay, and it's here's how it's playing out this year for me. So you can see that this year's solar return chart, my north node is conjunct Mercury and the midheaven. The midheaven is ruled by Mercury. So this conjunction is the north node is not just widely conjunct the midheaven, but it is conjunct the ruler of the whole chart. I have Virgo rising here, but the career sector. So there's all sorts of new career things that I'm doing now, multiple in communications, Gemini, okay, which I know will be very successful because of that north node Gemini conjunction. And the south node would be here, okay, against the 4th house, and it's not exactly conjunct like it was in 2011, but it's there. So here's what I'm losing in 2021. Both of my children live with me, and what I'm starting to notice now in their lives, in their adult lives, is they are getting ready to leave the nest. And very soon I'm going to have an empty nest. So once again, my family dynamic is changing, and I feel like I'm losing something with family. And it's a normal stage of life. Obviously, it's nothing bad. I'm still very close with my kids, but something is changing again. It's that loss. There's something going that I didn't have to lose up until now. Okay, this is just a life stage. But again, north node, major career stuff. So next year's solar return, teaching tool. This May, when I have my birthday, my solar return, even though I'm born on May 8th, my solar return will happen on the 7th. And by the way, I just started changing how I do the solar returns. I'm now casting it for the birth location, even though I don't live in Hollis, Queens, New York anymore. I'm casting the solar return for the birth location. Play around with your locations and see what works for you. If it's the current location or the birth location, for me, it doesn't matter too much because I didn't travel too far from my birth location. I'm only about an hour away, but the nodes. North node is in Taurus, conjunct the sun. The sun is the most important planet in the solar return chart because it's the solar return. Conjunct Uranus on my 7th house cusp. In my natal chart, you might remember that I have Uranus there natally. So this is actually mimicking something that I have in my natal chart anyway. But the north node conjunct the sun in the 7th house. I think that means I'm going to be meeting somebody very significant during that solar return year, and it will be sudden because Uranus is involved. And this could be a life partner. This could be a new long-term commitment, a new marriage partner. So the north node of destiny is symbolizing that very strongly. And this is a way to use predictive astrology with the transiting nodes, not just against your birth chart, but look and see if it's a noteworthy year in your solar return chart. Okay, so I know this was a very comprehensive video. This was meant to be a teaching video. So I know beginner astrology enthusiasts might not have been able to follow all of this, but I still hope that you found it interesting and parts of it relevant and just understandable. So please do share your comments and let me know if you like these types of videos. And be sure to like and share and subscribe to the channel. And thank you all so much for joining me today.